Hello everyone. Today is 30th of December. Now it's about 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. Although before I start, let me first of all, just in case due to some technical issues or something, I will not be able to make update tomorrow. Let me congratulate you all with the incoming new year. So happy new year to you, to your family members, to your friends, to everyone. I hope next new year will be much more successful, much more peaceful for all of us, for all of humanity. That's been said, let's go through some news. And when it comes to news, dear friends, of course, unfortunately, we have to acknowledge that news itself is not really that optimistic, or at least for now. But things might change, So first news that I want to share is about statements that Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov made. And even though in statements itself you might see nothing extraordinary or new, this statement is important because of the news that I will share next. So let's start. Russia won't make concessions on Ukraine's NATO membership, according to Russian Foreign Minister. So Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Russia will not agree to a more postponement of Kiev's NATO membership or to the deployment of European peacekeepers to Ukraine. Two ideas reportedly proposed by advisors of US President-elect Donald Trump as a part of potential peace deal. In an interview with the TASS news agency published on Monday, Lavrov said that Russia has not received any signals from the Trump's team regarding talks to resolve the Ukrainian conflict, which is, by the way, on its own is quite strange, especially if you take into account that during the election campaign, Trump and his team members, at least some of them, were quite active while talking about the Ukrainian crisis and how they're going to resolve the issue, isn't it? And it is strange that they did not even try to contact Russian side yet, right? According to Lavrov, or they did not send any strong signals, which is not really something that brings more optimism, right? But anyways, let's go through this news. Then quote here, we have always been and remain ready for negotiations, but it is important to understand with whom and about what to conduct these negotiations, Lavrov stressed. He also said that if discussions with the next US administration take place, Moscow will not accept the proposals reported in the media coming from members of the Trump's team. During his campaign, Trump repeatedly promised to find a swift diplomatic solution to the Ukrainian crisis if elected, but did not provide specifics on how he would achieve the goal. The Wall Street Journal reported in November that Trump's advisors had drafted a plan to resolve the conflict. The proposal includes delaying Ukraine's NATO membership for 2 decades, which is obviously absolutely unacceptable for Russian side, and Lavrov once again pointed out this position of Russia. And also these advisors to Trump propose freezing of the conflict along the current front line and the establishment of demilitarized zone controlled by peacekeepers from Ukraine's European allies, which is also non-started. I was commenting on these proposals straight away, right? Once media reported about it, and I said, I expressed my take on the situation. I said this is a non-starters for Moscow, and Russian side is exactly on that position, that this is a no for Russia. Lavrov said also that peace between Moscow and Kiev can only be achieved through reliable, legally binding agreement that addresses the root causes of the conflict and include mechanisms to prevent future violations. So, well, quite clear position from Russian leadership, right? Lavrov is a foreign minister, and obviously this is a position not just his, but also Russian presidents, right? And why I'm highlighting these statements of Lavrov? Because we are receiving this quite interesting news, by the way, today from different sources, although originally Buzzer media outlet was an initial source, that special plane from Russia flight team, which services official visits of the Russian delegations, including Russian president. So plane from this flight team, Russia or Russia, flew to US cities, New York and Washington, and then back to Russia. Although there was no announcements of any official visit of anybody from Russia into US, right? And obviously now rumors are circulating who was on a board, why this plane flew to US, what is going on, really. People want to know, and I will share with you my takes, and we can discuss this topic in a comment section. Let me first translate this news. So let's go through it now. A Russian special flight from the Russia Special Flight Squadron was in United States for 2 days. The Buzzer publication reported in its Telegram channel. And by the way, RIA Novosti is republishing this news, which most likely means that RIA Novosti most likely double-checked the information, and once they double-checked it, they are publishing now also this news. So on the 25th of December, the special flight took off from Moscow to St. Petersburg. On the 26th of December, the Il-96 Russian plane, Il-96 from this flight squadron Russia flew from St. Petersburg to New York, and then after a short break went to Washington. On the 28th of December, a Russian plane from Washington flew back to New York, and from there went to Moscow. The publication said the purpose of the flights and the passengers on the flights are unknown. It is noted that officially scheduled visits of the Russian delegations to the United States were not reported that there was any official visit, right? So question is, what is going on? Why this plane, special board, by the way, from this flight squadron Russia that services Russian delegations, including and Russian officials, including Russian president, why this plane flew to these two cities of US, New York and Washington? There might be, in my personal take, there might be two scenarios. Either some representatives of Russian leadership conducted some negotiations with the current or potentially future administrations of the US, which theoretically might be the case, right? Because as we know, the current administration is in Washington, right? But future administration, many members of future administration right now are in New York or not far away, right? Trump himself spends quite a lot of time in New Jersey area, as far as I understand. He loves to play golf and stuff. And anyways, theoretically speaking, it is possible that some representatives of Russian leadership flew to US to conduct some negotiations. Although, by the way, this happened on 25th and 26th, right? And this interview that I spoke about just a minute ago of Lavrov to TASS news agency was published yesterday, right? So I guess if there was some negotiations, those negotiations didn't went that well, right? Because Lavrov is quite clear in his statements what is acceptable and what is not acceptable to Russia, and because he has to mention these topics, right? these some ideas that were circulating in media that was originally generated from advisors of the Trump. That means that maybe if there was negotiations, Trump's team once again tried to sell these ideas and it did not work, right? Maybe this is the case. Although I have another explanation, which is that, as you know, New York is of course hosting headquarters of the UN, and obviously in UN dozens of Russian diplomats are working on daily basis, and family members of these diplomats are living in New York, right? And maybe this flight was to evacuate Russian diplomats from New York and from Washington. Washington is capital, obviously, and the Russian embassy is located there. And so maybe this flight evacuated Russian diplomats, maybe not all of them, but many of them, and their family members from Russian staff in UN, Russian diplomatic staff in UN, and the Russian staff in embassy. I remind you, dear friends, that officially, as far as I'm concerned, Russia did not yet appoint a new ambassador to US, right? So Russia right now don't have ambassador into US, right? So if this second scenario is correct, and if this flight was conducted to evacuate family members of the Russian diplomats and their diplomats themselves from New York and Washington, then, well, that might be seen by some people or even by many as a beginning of their final countdown before large-scale escalation or significant escalation between Russia and the US. Maybe that is what is happening. And when we are talking about escalation between Russia and US, obviously one may argue that that is escalation between Russia and the West. So maybe this flight can be seen as an indicator of the beginning of this final countdown before some major developments will take place. I don't know, dear friends. I'm just sharing my understanding of the situation. I'm sharing these scenarios that I see plausible. You share your opinion, what you think, what is going on there. But in any case, it is important. It is definitely important news that some very serious movements are happening between the sides. And when it comes to potential escalation, well, Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, also stated that Moscow is not really have an option now, but to basically let's go through this news here. So Russia will have to abandon their unilateral moratorium on the deployment of ground-based intermediate range and short range missiles. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said today it is obvious that for example our moratorium on the deployment of the intermediate and the short range missiles is almost unviable, and it will have to be abandoned. RIA Novosti quotes Lavrov as saying, however, Lavrov stressed that at the moment the moratorium remains in force. The minister drew attention to the fact that the United States and NATO ignored the warnings of Russia and China and continue to deploy weapons of this class of missiles around the world. Lavrov recalled that Russian President Vladimir Putin unequivocally declared his readiness to respond to such action in adequate manner, basically. So this is also interesting news because Russia may start deploying intermediate and short-range missiles, not just in Far East, where US clearly has plans and already deploying, as far as I understand, its medium range weapon systems, but Russia will start deploying these weapon systems into European part of Russia, right? And potentially also in Belarus. And you know, Lukashenko himself, president of Belarus, just a couple of days ago stated that he would like to see deployment of at least dozen of Oreshnik hypersonic Russian missile systems into the country, right? So this is also important because I mean, in case of let's say maybe not a full-scale war between West and Russia, but in case of exchange of strikes, which unfortunately is definitely possibility now due to constant escalation by the Western ruling class. Obviously, most likely these are short or medium range weapon systems will be used. Not necessarily tipped with the nuclear warheads or maybe even with nuclear warhead. You just never know. But these weapons are extremely effective, as we all know, in any configuration, nuclear or non-nuclear, right? And they cannot be intercepted. NATO just has no means to intercept their modern Russian hypersonic weapon systems. It's just it is what it is, right? So that's what is going on there, friends. There is yesterday, today, there was these days are quite slow news-wise, understandably so, because New Year is coming and everybody is preparing for the celebration. Although, as you can see, dear friends, some very interesting and important developments still are happening, and that's why I decided for myself that I will have maybe shorter updates, but still I will have updates today, tomorrow. On 1st of January, I will take day off, and then I will come back with regular updates. So yes, that's the news that I wanted to start. To me personally, especially interesting is this news about this Russian plane flight, because if Russia is beginning to evacuate its family members of diplomats and their diplomats themselves, then that's definitely a big deal, because this type of stuff happens usually before a big escalation between the sides, right? When diplomats are evacuated from the countries. So we will find out soon. Maybe there are some contacts behind the scenes between Russia and the Russian and the diplomats and Trump's team, and maybe Russian side realized that, you know what, these people are out of touch with reality and they just objectively cannot propose any agreement that will be acceptable for us. Maybe this realization is finally settling in. Who knows? Anyways, dear friends, let's continue with some other news. TASS News Agency is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Novotroitskaya settlement in a DPR. And when it comes to advances of the Russian armed forces, we also received this quite interesting information. Russian Defense Ministry confirmed liberation of Novotroitskaya, although some sources are reporting also that Russian troops established control over the Shevchenko settlement on the western side of Kurakhova. As you can see, dear friends, Russian troops moved quite far away from Kurakhova itself, from the northern side, right? So this is Shevchenko settlement, and Kyiv regime's troops were forced to withdraw from this area. I guess in next couple of days we will receive official confirmation from Russian Defense Ministry that this settlement is under Russian control. When it comes to Kurakhova itself, now battles are taking place in industrial area, and the Russian troops basically are conducting clearing operation. I guess it is possibility that Kurakhova will become under full Russian control even before end of this year, which means either today or tomorrow. Russian forces, I mean, their videos are circulating on internet when Russian forces are conducting cleaning operation exactly in this industrial part of their city. Let's continue with some more news, and well, TASS news agency also reported, based on defense ministry, that a missile that was launched by formerly Kyiv regime was intercepted over the Kursk region, although no specifics what type of missile. Soviet era .u, for example, or maybe ATACMS, US made ATACMS, or British made Storm Shadow, or French made Scalp PG. No details, no specifics, just the information that over the Kursk region, Russian air defense systems intercepted their missile. Also, dear friends, we have this report that new Syrian leader wants closer ties with Russia. Question is, does Russia wants closer ties with these extremists? That's a whole different story, isn't it? But let's go through this news. The new Syrian authorities, led by Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham HTC terrorist organization, let's be clear, these are terrorists, by the way. These are terrorists. So, leader of these terrorists, Turkish-controlled terrorist group, would like to remain on good terms with Russia. The country's de facto leader, Ahmed Hussein al-Shara, has said, also known by his nom de guerre Abu Muhammad al-Julani name, he suggested in an interview with the broadcaster Al Arabiya on Sunday that his government would not necessarily be seeking the withdrawal of Moscow's military installations from the country after their militant group in Syria took control of Damascus and forced former President Bashar al-Assad to resign. The fate of Russian troops stationed in Syria at the Khmeimim and Tartus bases came into question. Moscow operates the Khmeimim air base and logistic support center in Tartus, both situated in the country's Mediterranean coast. In 2017, Russia and Syria agreed to station Moscow's troops there for 49 years. So there is a 49-year contract in place, although I don't think these terrorists really care about contracts that previous regime signed. Most likely Turkey don't really want to escalate with Moscow too much, and that's why this terrorist that formally is in charge of Syria now is saying these words that he wants to have good relationships with Russia. In my personal opinion, Russia should withdraw military bases from Syria and forget about that country. That's my personal opinion, and if you ask me, I would like to see Russia cutting diplomatic ties with Turkey and all relationships, economical, political, whatever, because Turkey is a historical enemy of Russia and will be historical enemy of Russia forever. That's how it is, by the way. It's that simple, right? And too much games being played, by the way, with and around this Erdogan's terrorist regime. It is a clearly terrorist regime, right, in Turkey. It supports terrorists that are beheading people, and right now, as I'm recording this video, these terrorists, by the way, are exterminating Christians in Syria, Druze people, and Alawites. And there are plenty of videos on internet already with factual evidences of that. So I hope Russian side will make decision to withdraw Russian bases in safe manner, or if Latakia province will declare independence from Syria, that might change their calculus. If Alawites and Christians and Druze will unite to establish control over this province, right, where Latakia city and Tartus are located. I mean, if they will overtake control over that area, that might change calculus. In that case, Russian bases might remain there. That will be quite safe. But I don't think Russia should stay in Syria if areas where Russian bases are located are under control of these terrorists, man. That's my personal take. I don't know what Moscow is going to do, of course. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that South Korea grounded all Boeing 737-800 planes. As you know, yesterday one of these planes crashed as a result of which 179 people died from 181 that was on a board. And also yesterday, two other planes experienced some difficulties, according to some reports that I see, and one of them difficulties with their landing gear. And so South Korean authorities made decision to ground all these type of planes now, and I guess thorough investigation will be conducted to make sure that these planes are safe to fly. Initially, reports were that this plane that crashed hit a bird's flock, although because another plane also experienced difficulties with the landing gear, maybe there is some technical issues with the plane itself. So I guess investigation will tell us what had happened and if these planes really are safe or not to continue flight. Meanwhile, I mentioned in my yesterday's first update that there was presidential elections in Croatia, and well, interestingly, current president of Republic Milanovic only managed to receive 49.1% of the votes, which means that there will be second tour of presidential elections, I guess in 2 weeks' time, approximately. And on topic of presidential elections, yesterday, president-elect in Georgia, Mikhail Avalashvili, inauguration took place, and former president Salome Zurabishvili, Western asset, and her supporters were forced, basically. They didn't really had options but to flee presidential palace, even though they were threatening that they're not gonna leave the palace and they are only legit force in the country. They left the palace, and after inauguration, new president of Georgia, Mikhail Avalashvili, is beginning to work as he should as a president of the country. So yes, Georgia has new president, by the way, Mikhail Avalashvili, more known worldwide as a football player. If I remember correctly, he was playing in Alanya, North Ossetia Alanya team, and that team, by the way, was champion of Russia. All right, at the time, that team was on playing unbelievable football. Now Alanya is not doing that great, but you know, who knows what is ahead of the team. And Avalashvili also played for Man City, I believe. So he must be somewhat famous in UK also, and among football fans, basically worldwide. So yes, this is it. This is it, dear friends, for now, because new president now is in office, and Georgian society and Georgian government managed to keep unity and deal with the provocations of the Western-controlled opposition quite well. I hope I would not be mistaken if I will say that that attempts of the Western ruling class to conduct regime change in Georgia and then sacrifice Georgia as a sort of second front against Russia has failed. I hope I'm not mistaken by saying so. Of course, Western assets going to continue their attempts to destabilize country, but I mean, it is clear that they are not in a position, politically speaking, to achieve this without force being used, right? Georgian society definitely don't want those people in power. That's how it is. Anyways, dear friends, I will end this relatively short update on this information. Hopefully you will find this video informative, interesting, and useful, and if so, please click that like button, leave some commentary just about anything or any topic that will be helpful to deal with the extremely aggressive algorithm, by the way, especially on YouTube. And If you like my work, if you think I deserve to be in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support this project with small donations through PayPal, Boosty platform, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. And if you are good with crypto, you can support with crypto. Also, all the links are under this video in this description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Once again, Happy New Year. Have a wonderful, successful new year. Take care, and if no technical issues, I see you tomorrow. Bye for now.